Hello, and welcome back to Measuring Learner Data and Assessment. This is Week 5, Lecture 3. How can we improve on the collection and measurement of learner data and assessment as it currently stands? And now we come to the end. Over the last 5 weeks, we've discussed and studied a lot of the different aspects of data and the gathering thereof, assessment, and the role assessment plays in the lives of stakeholders. We've looked at assessment as it was and as it is, and we've discussed somewhat the ways we wish it could be. This lecture will take some time to focus more on the latter, what the future holds for assessment and what we hope to see change. We will be looking at answering the question, how can we improve on the collection and measurement of learner data and assessment as it currently stands? How does what is happening now in education impact assessment? We've discussed, at various times throughout this course, the shift in educational policy over the last 15 years, beginning with No Child Left Behind, continuing with Race to the Top, and now taken further with Common Core. One thing has remained consistent: increased high-stake testing. It is a sad thing to be able to constantly refer to testing and assessment interchangeably, since we've seen that they are not the same. But in today's world, the distinction is not so clear to most. So how do these current events impact us? The impacts of these current events, this increased focus on high-stakes testing as constant and invasive assessment, can hardly be understated. Student approaches to their schooling, teacher planning, execution, and reflection on practice, administrative goal setting and budget decisions, and family reactions and relationships have all been affected by the increase in assessment. As discussed before, these impacts can range from increased anxiety to decreased variety in curriculum in favor of increased focus on items covered by test, to increased involvement and advocating by families. Whether or not the increased assessment actually serves a positive purpose remains to be seen. I will say, though, that in my experience as a high school teacher, I have heard from many former students that colleges complain that students come in with very little college-needed skill. This would say to me that assessment as it currently stands, while giving us a lot of data, doesn't allow us to do the necessary job of preparing our students for their futures. So what's coming? What perspectives are currently present addressing how to improve on the collection and measurement of learner data and assessment? Well, many perspectives exist regarding this issue. As with most issues, there are generally 3 viewpoints: the 2 radical extremes and the middle. On one side of the extreme viewpoints are those that do not see a problem with the increased amount of high-stakes testing. I've generally seen this viewpoint as trying to characterize education as following a business model, one in which gains must be constantly proven in order to be seen as successful. These business-minded educational leaders, or businesscators, if you will, tend to see high-stakes testing and increased assessment as the easiest and quickest way to prove the gains they want to see, to prove that their programs are successful. They're not wrong that testing is the easiest way to achieve the goals they've set, but I would argue that the goals themselves are wrong. So how would they improve on the collection and measurement of learner data and assessment? If they would make any changes at all, it would be assumed that it would be to increase the amount of assessment. On the other side of the extreme viewpoints are those that see the increase in high-stakes testing and assessment as destructive to the ends that education should be pursuing. These people tend towards an educational system in which high-stakes testing and copious assessment as they currently stand are no longer part of the process. This is not to say that assessment as an ideal would be thrown out, but the push would be to move to more authentic assessment, as discussed in Week 1, as opposed to the catch-all standardized assessments that we see being used so much presently. Lastly, there are those in the middle. My guess is that this is the group that most of us fall into. those that are just trying to make the best class and use of the curriculum as we can while still incorporating all of the aspects that we are expected to or told to use by our superiors. We go with the flow. We complain when the flow gets choppy, but then we adapt, we evolve, and we keep teaching. Most of us, if pressed, would definitely lean more one way, towards keeping the high-stakes tests and assessments, or the other, towards a more authentic assessment style and away from standardization. But we either feel too busy or too powerless to make a stand. Moving forward, though, this position may turn out to be untenable. If we want to see things change, we may have to change them ourselves. Over the course of the last 5 weeks, we've discussed the importance of data, the integral nature of assessment in gathering that data and measuring the learning growth of our different populations, the construction of assessments, their impacts on different stakeholders, and the impact of technology and the law on assessment. Through all of that, I hope that you've come away with the idea that in a lot of ways the old saying is true. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Assessment, in some form, has and probably always will be an extraordinarily important part of the education process and profession. But that saying should have an addendum here. The more things stay the same, the more things change. We've seen the evolution of assessment and data gathering in our own professional lifetimes, and we continue to see it evolve in front of our eyes. So where do we go from here? How does the measurement of learner data and assessment change moving forward? And to end with just one more question, where do you stand? And what are you willing to do to make your stance the reality? Thank you for your time, thought, and hard work. It's been a pleasure.